What would you do if your loved one turned into a cold-blooded killer? Would you still believe in their innocence? Our tale begins in the sunny state of California, where 32-year-old Bryn Spacer and Chad O'Melia were in the throes of a budding romance. Their relationship, while new, was intense, marked by shared moments and a mutual fondness for marijuana. It was a bond that, on the surface, seemed like any other. However, beneath the normalcy, a tempest was brewing, one that would soon engulf their lives in unimaginable horror. On a fateful night in 2018, a dreadful incident happened. The couple found themselves at O'Melia's apartment in Thousand Oaks, engaging in their usual routine of sharing a bong. But this night was different. This night, things took a turn so dark, it would forever mar the course of their lives. Bryn Spacer, a woman known for her charm and vivacious spirit, experienced what experts would later call a cannabis-induced psychotic disorder. The marijuana, which they had used so many times before, triggered a reaction so severe that it led Bryn down a horrifying path of violence. In the throes of her psychosis, Bryn transformed from a loving girlfriend into an unrecognizable monster. The apartment that had once been a sanctuary of love and laughter turned into a chilling crime scene. Bryn, succumbing to her altered state of mind, fatally stabbed Chad O'Melia. Not just once, not twice, but over 100 times. The brutality didn't end with Chad. Bryn also turned the knife on herself, leaving her in a state of hysteria when the police arrived. Officers found her screaming uncontrollably, the weapon still clutched in her blood-soaked hands. In the aftermath of this gruesome event, one thing became painfully clear. A life was lost in the most brutal way imaginable, and another life was forever scarred by the actions of a dreadful night. Over 100 stab wounds, a life lost and another life forever scarred. In the aftermath of a gruesome murder, the truth often seems elusive. The chilling echoes of that dreadful night reverberated in the Thousand Oaks apartment where law enforcement first encountered Bryn Spacer. The scene was dire. Chad O'Melia lay lifeless, his body bearing the brunt of over 100 stab wounds. Spacer, on the other hand, was found in a state of hysteria, her hands still gripping the bloodied weapon. Before the officers could intervene, she plunged the serrated bread knife into her own neck. It took the force of a taser and multiple baton blows for the police to finally disarm and subdue her. The relentless struggle ended with O'Melia pronounced dead at the scene and Spacer's arrest. The charges levied against Spacer were as severe as the crime scene suggested. She was immediately taken into custody, facing accusations of a crime that sent shivers down the spine of the community. The reality of the situation was stark. A beloved man was brutally murdered and his girlfriend was the prime suspect. The Ventura County District Attorney's Office released a statement detailing the events that transpired. It painted a picture of a night gone horribly wrong after a cannabis-induced psychotic episode. This was the first time the term cannabis-induced psychotic disorder was introduced to the case, a phrase that would later become the crux of the defense's argument. In the wake of the horror, the community was left reeling, grappling with the reality of what had occurred. The charges against Spacer were severe: involuntary manslaughter. The legal process was set in motion with lawyers, witnesses, and the entire Ventura County watching closely, each person trying to make sense of the senseless violence that had occurred. The bloody scene revealed the horror of that night, but the trial would reveal even more. The gruesome details of the crime were now public knowledge, but the question remained: what led to this horrifying act of violence? The search for answers would continue in the courtroom, where the complexities of the case would fully unveil themselves. The courtroom, a place where justice is served, but does it always serve the truth? This was the question that hung heavily in the air as the trial of Bryn Spacer began. The courtroom was a stage set with two families, both seeking answers and justice for a life tragically cut short. On one side was the family of Chad O'Melia, still grappling with the brutal loss of their loved one. On the other, the family of Bryn Spacer, a woman who had, until that fateful night, led a relatively ordinary life. The defense, led by attorney Bob Schwartz, argued a case of cannabis-induced psychotic disorder. They painted a picture of a woman who was not a cold-blooded killer but a victim herself, caught in the throes of a violent, uncontrollable reaction to marijuana. The defense called upon experts who testified about the rare but documented instances of psychosis triggered by cannabis use. In stark contrast, the prosecution presented a narrative of a woman who had knowingly and willingly consumed marijuana, then proceeded to stab her boyfriend over 100 times. They argued that Speicher's actions were not those of a person in the grip of psychosis, but of someone who willingly and brutally took a life. Caught in the middle were the testimonies of police officers who had arrived at the scene to find a gruesome tableau: Speicher, still holding the knife, screaming hysterically, and Omilia, lying in a pool of blood. As the arguments reverberated through the courtroom, the concept of cannabis-induced psychotic disorder took center stage. Was it possible for marijuana, a substance now legalized in many states, to induce such a violent reaction? Or was this a convenient excuse for a brutal act of violence? The trial was a battleground not just for Speicher's fate, but for the larger questions surrounding marijuana use and its potential risks. As the trial progressed, the question remained: was this a case of cold-blooded murder, or a tragic accident induced by cannabis? The gavel falls, the verdict is in. But will it satisfy the longing for justice or ignite a storm of controversy? A courtroom packed with tension, the fate of Bryn Speicher, a 32-year-old California woman, is decided. The charge: involuntary manslaughter. The sentence: 2 years of probation. This is the climax of a case that has revolved around a fatal stabbing incident induced by what experts have called a cannabis-induced psychosis. In the midst of the courtroom, Speicher and her family break into sobs, their tears a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Their ordeal is over, at least for now. But across the aisle, the victim's family is left grappling with a verdict that they perceive as a failure of justice. Chad Omilia, the man whom Speicher had been dating for several weeks, was the victim of this tragic incident. His life was cut short under a barrage of over 100 stabs, a brutal end that his family can't reconcile with the leniency of the verdict. Sean Omilia, the victim's father, voices his disbelief and outrage, stating that the judge's decision sets a dangerous precedent. He just gave everyone in the state of California who smokes marijuana a license to kill someone, he declares, a chilling sentiment that echoes in the courtroom and reverberates through the media. As the courtroom empties, the stark contrast between the relief of Speicher's family and the despair of Omilia's family paints a vivid picture of the complex and often divisive nature of the justice system. The verdict, meant to serve justice, has instead ignited a storm of controversy and debate. Behind these courtroom doors, a decision was made that has left a family devastated and a community divided. A case that began with a fatal stabbing and a claim of cannabis-induced psychosis has ended with a sentence of probation, leaving many to question whether justice was truly served. The judge's decision sparked a debate that reached far beyond the courtroom. As the gavel's echo fades, the debate continues, a stark reminder of the enduring impact of this case. In the court of public opinion, the verdict is often harsher. It's a grim reality that the aftermath of Bryn Speicher's trial wasn't confined to the courtroom. In the wake of the ruling, public sentiment flared with a mix of shock, disbelief, and anger. The decision to spare Speicher prison time sparked a wave of controversy that rippled through Ventura County and beyond. Omilia's family and friends were the most vocal. A day before the hearing, they marched in front of the county government center, carrying signs that read, "108 stab wounds is a serious crime, and Judge Worley, do the right thing." Their outrage was palpable, their grief raw and unfiltered. They saw the ruling as a dangerous precedent, a miscarriage of justice that effectively gave a green light to lethal violence under the influence of marijuana. Sean Omilia, the victim's father, was particularly incensed. He said, "He just gave everyone in the state of California who smokes marijuana a license to kill someone." His words echoed the sentiments of many who saw the ruling as a potential threat to public safety. The controversy also ignited a broader debate about the use of marijuana and its potential implications. Speicher's defense hinged on the claim of cannabis-induced psychotic disorder, a condition that experts say can result from an adverse reaction to marijuana. This brought the issue of marijuana-induced psychosis into the spotlight, raising questions about its impact on criminal responsibility. Yet, amid the outcry, there were those who saw the ruling as a courageous act. Speicher's lawyer, Bob Schwartz, praised Judge Worley, saying, "Judge Worley did the right and courageous thing." His words highlighted the complexity of the case, hinting at the delicate balance between justice, mercy, and the unpredictable effects of substances like marijuana. The case closed, but the questions and the outcry remained. The ordeal of Bryn Speicher and Chad Omilia may have ended in court, but its echoes continue to reverberate, shaping public discourse and challenging our understanding of justice, crime, and the effects of marijuana. Every case, every verdict sets a precedent, but what does this case mean for the future? The ruling in the case of Bryn Spacer, who fatally stabbed her boyfriend Chad O'Melia more than 100 times while allegedly suffering from a cannabis-induced psychosis, has sparked a heated debate in the legal world. The implications of this case are far-reaching and potentially troubling. Spacer's sentence, 2 years of probation following her conviction of involuntary manslaughter, has raised eyebrows and concerns. Legal experts are questioning the implications of this verdict, mulling over the potential misuse of cannabis-induced psychosis as a defense. In the eyes of the law, every case sets a precedent, a legal principle established by a court ruling that will guide future courts in similar situations. The ruling in Spacer's case may have inadvertently set a dangerous precedent, suggesting that cannabis-induced psychosis could be a legitimate defense for violent crimes. Critics of the verdict argue that this could potentially open the floodgates for misuse of this defense, leading to potential miscarriages of justice. In the words of Sean O'Melia, Chad's father, he just gave everyone in the state of California who smokes marijuana a license to kill someone. The legal community is also grappling with the broader implications of this case. It raises questions about the intersection of mental health, substance use, and the criminal justice system. It forces us to confront the complexities of these interrelated issues, and to examine how our legal system can better address them. Moreover, the case highlights the need for further research into cannabis-induced psychosis, its prevalence, and its impact on behavior. Such research could provide crucial insights that could inform future legal decisions. But perhaps most importantly, it underscores the imperative of ensuring that justice is served, not just for the accused but also for the victims and their families. The cries for justice from Chad O'Melia's loved ones are a stark reminder of the human cost of these legal debates. As the debate rages on, one thing is clear: this case will leave a lasting imprint on the legal landscape. When the dust settles, it's the survivors who bear the scars. The impact of the Spacer case goes far beyond the courtroom walls, leaving lasting impressions on the families involved, the community, and even the wider society. On one side, there's Bryn Spacer, a woman who, under the influence of cannabis, unleashed a violent attack that would forever alter the course of her life. She found relief in a sentence of probation, but the guilt and the traumatic memories are inescapable companions. Her family too must grapple with the reality of their daughter's actions, a reality that is now public, scrutinized, and forever tied to a horrific crime. On the other side, there's the O'Melia family, who have lost a son in the most brutal way imaginable. Their grief is compounded by the perceived injustice of the sentencing. They mourn not just the loss of a loved one, but also the loss of faith in a judicial system they believed would serve justice. Their pain echoes in the silent corridors of Chad O'Melia's now empty apartment in Thousand Oaks, and in the hearts of those who knew him. The community too is left grappling with the aftershock. The case has sparked off heated debates, with people questioning the role of cannabis in the crime and the fairness of the legal proceedings. The unprecedented ruling has triggered discussions about the implications of cannabis use, and the potential for it to incite violence. At a societal level, the case has ignited a wider conversation about the legal ramifications of drug-induced psychosis. It has opened up a Pandora's box of questions about how the law should treat those who commit crimes under the influence of substances. It's a debate that will continue to rage on, long after the headlines have faded. In the end, the only certainty is the tragic loss of a life, and a tale that will forever be etched in the annals of true crime.